All right, hey everyone, it's Mikey here for a few minutes, and thanks for listening in. But my contention is about phones and the evolution of cell phones recently. Most specifically smartphones, right? Because I know there's some new designs coming out, and they're trying to break through from the smartphone to something, maybe more universal than that. But right now, I think most Americans are using the smartphones, most cell phone users, and they've been out for a good few years now, and I don't know how many years exactly, maybe 15 years or so or whatever. But the users have had them on the user level. You have your opinions, of course, so I welcome your feedback and everything like that. But I'm just saying the evolution of these smartphones, it's kind of taken an interesting turn, in my opinion, because maybe you understand what it's like to have some of those phones that we had before smartphones became popular, like the Motorola flip phone Razr, for example, which is a pretty thin flip phone. We started getting those screens that looked more graphical, had a GUI that allowed you to play like games and stuff like that. So, but now we got the smartphone basically like a small PC in your hand, or computer. So it's a bit more capability to it, right? And as far as able to watch videos much easier and so forth. And that's great. That's excellent because, that allows us to use it for a lot more things. But at the same time, that visual display element of it really kind of took over the size of these things, in my opinion. Like we used to have the smaller, thinner phone, and it used to be about kind of compact mobile communication. You can fit the phone in your pocket and just take it. Hey, Bezo, get off here. Sorry, my bird likes to interrupt, but he likes to jump on top of things like the phone itself. So, but what I'm just talking about is the way these phones have moved from kind of a compact mobile communication device to more of an all-encompassing device. But most specifically, the displays have grown to be so big, right? In my opinion. Now, I'm not saying this phone here is a great phone. In many ways, it's a Samsung phone, an A5 III to be exact. And I really don't have a lot of complaints about it per se. It's a pretty good phone, and even for a cheap base model type of phone, promotional phone that was offered for like a low price or free or something like that with the plan. But the thing about the phones that and it's not just this phone. It's not like this is just a phone. Is that the thing is the display has become so important that the phones are pretty big and bulky now, and it's even hard to find a sleeker phone. Like I've had previous phones like the LG. Maybe you're familiar with LG, which made cell phones for a bit, and in my opinion, made some of the best phones there was. But at the same time, I guess they didn't catch the market quite like Samsung and iPhone, of course. So they decided to get out of the phone business. So they're doing other appliances and all that stuff, electronics, etc. LG, in my opinion, is a great phone. I have an LG phone right here. It's an LG G6. Maybe you're familiar with this model. If you've used this model or any other LG, maybe comment, let me know what your experience is with LG phones specifically. But this phone, in my opinion, was great because it had the smartphone screen and had a full screen and everything like that. And I know some people like to have that big, maybe cinematic or theatrical effect of a larger screen. This phone's not really particularly that huge compared to what's out there. This Samsung A5 III. There's also like this Motorola 5G Ace, if I'm correct. It's not like a terrible phone per se, but it's just so bulky, and it's got this extra case on it right now. It's not actually like my phone per se, but let me know what you think. I mean, these phones, are they getting to be too big? Now, not that it's not like, I understand the option to get a bigger phones and so forth, and they even have bigger phones than these going on right now. These Max Pros, etc. They can be pretty big. I know a lot of people are excited about getting them, but are they practical? Do you Now, if you have your vehicle and you like to keep your phone in your vehicle, like basically all the time, maybe that's more appealing to a good amount of people. But I would imagine a lot of people like to be able to have their phone pretty mobile. Um, but this phone here, like without the case, I take the phone case off. It's not like terrible, but you can see if I compare it to this LG G6, right? You can see the size, the length difference. Like in terms of operating it with one hand, you can see how much taller that is. Yeah, it gives you some more visual display, but you know, like I said, I can understand the option to get bigger phone, but is it so mainstream that people don't want a reasonably sporty phone? Now, this phone is an older phone, this LG G6. I had a few of them. This phone just works just like new, other than no software updates anymore, probably at all. But it's a great phone, and it still works well. It's just that the engine's a little outdated now. We've got much faster ability to sync, download more space and videos and so forth like that, and play bigger files quicker with a newer phone like even just this A5 III, which is not particularly, it's not like top of the line or anything, but it is a newer phone than this LG G6. So in terms of the engine, it's much newer, more updated. So you're going to get newer technology. But they're, like this was on a promotional too, but it was still a pretty good phone at the time. So this LG G6, and still to this day, I mean, I would have a hard time even selling or getting rid of the phone, although I probably will at some point because it's just I'm using other devices now. But I wish LG would come back and make more devices like there were more phone companies would just make more devices that are sleek like this. I know there's a couple few out there. There's a couple few lines of phones that are sleeker and smaller like this, but I don't know if they're quite like this. This one, like there's the Google Pixel that has a nice snappy feel to it. It's not a bad phone. It's a great phone. I think that most people would agree that have used it. It's a nice, powerful feeling, snappy but light phone. But then they have the camera that comes out, the embezzled camera that comes, or not embezzled, but it comes out. It's kind of sticks out from the back, and I don't have one here. A Google Pixel 6 or 6A or Google Pixel 7, or maybe another newer one that they have coming out or out now. I don't keep total track of all of them, but like I said, this LG G6. Now this doesn't have any kind of, there's nothing protruding from it. It's pretty sleek. It's just got like 3 buttons or 2 buttons on the side, all right? And another thing too, and this is just my opinion, I know that a lot of companies are moving away from the headphone jack and basically deleting for the headphone jack. This LG G6 had a headphone jack. Now, I don't see really any good reason why they have to remove the headphone jack. I think a lot of people still like to use wired headphones. And also, if you know that wireless headphones can be kind of pricey. So like if you lose your wireless headphone earpiece, or it breaks or something like that, then you have to buy a whole nother wireless headphones right away just to be able to use your headphones. Like what if I want to just use a $10 set of headphones that I have in my drawer real quick, or for some reason I feel like I need the wired headphones because it's just I'm not getting a good connection or something's wrong with my earpiece, right? So that's another thing too. I mean, is it really necessary to take out that little bit of space that it required for a headphone jack just to make it, and then have to have a much bigger phones? Not like a ton bigger, but hey, look at this. This is the A5 III compared to the LG G6. Yeah, we're getting like what, another centimeter. I get it, that's cool, but I mean, if you're on the go, I mean, unless you're sitting at your desk or a table or something like that, in that case you might have a laptop or a desktop or something like that. When do you really need that big of a phone that you're on an airplane and you really have to have that extra half centimeter that's making it kind of bulky to carry and keep track, put your phone in your pocket like this phone right here. And I even had a case for it that was just nice and thin. So it's like I can just put it in my pocket real easily. It's pretty lightweight. Now, yeah, granted, I would want newer technology than this phone just because it's a little outdated. But it seemed like it wouldn't even have to necessarily be this small. It could be a little bit bigger. But like I said, these phones here, in my opinion, this phone here too also has this backing, this glossy, rounded backing. It's not terrible, but it just attracts fingerprints and anything like that. So you're definitely going to want to have a case on it of some kind, probably, unless you like to have that glossy backing getting fingerprints all the time. You're going to want to have a case. This case is a little bit bulky, but if you put any case on here, it's just going to feel even bulkier, right? So now you have almost a brick. Like you're carrying a brick around with you. And yeah, that's great if you need to watch a bit, but you want to do other things on your phone too that don't really require a huge screen, right? I know that some people might like to multitask. Maybe you need 2 screens like that, but I can still do that fine on this. But honestly, how often do you really want to multitask apps? Like, maybe in a rare moon it might make some sense. But for the most part, I'm looking on it, so I'm concentrating on one thing at a time for the most part. I can switch back and forth, especially if the engine is powerful enough. Right, so just having a good engine in the back end of the phone is important. So I certainly would encourage looking at the specs of the phone if you're going to get a new phone, but also looking at the weight and size specs, just making sure it's a phone that you feel like you can tolerate over time. This phone here is just an extra phone I have. It's not like it's my main phone. My main phone is this phone for now, but it's a little bit, maybe a little bit smaller. This is the Samsung. You can see it's a bit smaller, really. Actually, wow, that's a lot smaller. The Samsung A5 III compared to, the case might be slightly different on them, but this one has a case too. It's just a little bit different design. It's maybe a little sleeker. You can see this one looks a lot thicker with this case on here. It does look thinner without the case, this Motorola. But this Samsung right here, like I said, the Samsung, it's not, they're both reasonable phones as far as they work well, but they're maybe a little laggy. Both of them can be a little laggy here and there. So you consider they're bigger phones, they should, it's running a bigger display, so a lot of that power is going into the display, right? A lot of that energy is going into the display. A lot of the resolution power required for good resolution is going into a larger display, right? And you want a sharp resolution, not necessarily such a large display that it is so important to have the super high resolution, right? Which takes a bit more battery power, right? Overall, that kind of adds to your electric bills if you're charging, a few devices regularly. So, that's a factor to consider. But like you said, efficiency of your phone, right? How much charge is it going to take up? And, that's not a big deal itself, but, is it going to require a lot of energy just to operate your phone regularly? Like, this phone doesn't really run out of battery too quick. The Samsung A5 III will last pretty good. So I can't complain about it, a whole lot about it. But this one here, I think, runs out of battery a bit quicker. And, I reinstalled it, reset it, so it's not like there shouldn't be anything running in the background or anything that, it just generally seems to run out of battery quicker. It's already about half down right now. And it takes a while to charge this Motorola. I'm not saying it's a bad phone. It takes a while to charge it. It feels like I'm charging up like a storage device, like a big, this one here's reasonable. An LG G6 will charge up real fast, maybe because the battery life isn't necessarily like it used to be when I first got it, but it still will hold battery life a bit. And that's another thing too, is like it seems like when older phones, they won't be getting the updates, etc. Maybe they're getting loaded with some updates that they can't handle, and then they can kind of be laggy or slower. So it's not, I get it, maybe those conspiracies and technology, trying to outdate your technology and all that stuff, but overall, that's what happens is they update their software and they start adding all these different features, and before you know it, your older phone might not handle it the same way. So, but, in my opinion, they should bring back smaller, not super small, but phones like this size, a smartphone. This phone's got a solid build, too. I think it's got like a glass back or something on it. I'm not sure exactly the whole build of it. But this LG G6 has this nice thin metal. It's not rounded totally. It's just kind of a slightly curved with an edge there, right, in the corners. That feels kind of nice to hold, like 007 type of feel, kind of, right? It's kind of sleek, but it's got a bit to it. This one here is just like, you're on a motorcycle, you have to tie this thing up to the side of your bike or something like that just to carry it around. And this one here, it's reasonable, the Samsung, but it's a little bulky if I want to walk around and hold it. This one's definitely too bulky to want to walk around and hold it, and if you're just standing around talking on your phone for a few minutes with somebody, you're talking to a buddy or whatever. This one here, it's not like the worst, but like I said, you can see the difference size here. This one, and then this one doesn't have the case. I get it, but you can see just sitting them on the table, the size difference between all three of them. Now, if this one had a case, maybe it'd be just a little bit taller than that. But you see that, you can see how it's reasonable to carry this around. It's more mobile, right? These were almost like, miniature palm tops. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not against the idea of them being available in the marketplace, but these phone companies, I feel like Samsung doesn't even offer any smaller, reasonable sized phone, in my opinion. And they're pretty good phones. Like, Samsung makes good phones, right? But they're kind of just doing a lot of this newer, longer style, which it's cool. But if you want to shoot a video, it's a little bit too much, Like, I want to, maybe that 9:16 ratio, that's not I'm okay with a slightly smaller screen if I'm recording. So, That's just my opinion. But hey, I'd like to invite you to give me your opinion. What kind of phone you like the most recently and why you like them. But like I said, you might consider some of these factors, right? And just the weight and actual screen size compared to the actual phone size, right? And that's important. You know, some of them are going to have a little bit of a frame around it. This one here, you can see it's got a little bit of a, a bezel on the side there that takes up a few millimeters. This one here, it's got like a screen protector on it. If I was to take it off, this LG G6, it's got a screen protector. It's got a little bit of a black border around it too. So I don't know. I think it goes up a little bit closer to the edge than this black border because this is just part of the screen protector I have on it. But then, this one here, on the other hand, or wait, this is the Samsung. See, it's got that similar size bezel to the Motorola probably, right? Which had, and that's like, that doesn't bother me. A little bit of a bezel's like fine. I mean, I'm not looking for one of those glass rounded phones necessarily. I don't want a phone that's like too fragile or so heavy that if I drop it's gonna crack something. If it's lightweight, it's less likely that's gonna happen. I don't need as big of a case on it as well, if that makes sense. It's kind of an exponential thing. If it's just a little bit lighter, that's gonna be like if you have the screen just a little bit smaller, it's gonna say it saves a bit of weight. Like this feels definitely heavier than this one, right? And this one certainly feels like the heaviest, right? The Motorola. So that's just my thoughts on these particular three phones. But overall, the industry in general, like I said, removing the headphone jacks, making the screens big, which is great, but it's taking up a bit more battery life and so forth. You have to have a bigger battery, more charging capability ready for it, right? Which is cool, but I like to be able to always be capable. So that means I want a long battery life. It doesn't require a ton to always charge it. It charges fairly quick, stuff like that. And I know the iPhones are popular with that, but they're still also kind of, in my opinion, making their phones a little bit large, just a little bit. And of course, they're bigger phones. I can't, it'd be too much for me, for my everyday driver. But this is my opinion. How do you use your phone the most? Is it shoot video? You're using it for like little apps and business documents and stuff like that, like I probably do a bit? Are you using it for like just making memes and let me know what you use your phone for probably the most, and maybe leave me your feedback, and appreciate you listening to this video. Certainly encourage you to like and subscribe, and welcome you back to the next video. See you next time. Have a great one.